Farmers are having sleepless nights. They're worried about this year's summer season because a locust invasion is threatening this year's yield. The sector says proactive measures are needed urgently to mitigate the impact. Let's find out more now from Andrea Campher from Agri SA. Andrea, good afternoon. Welcome to Today on eNCA this afternoon. So how likely is it that there will be this summer season locust invasion, a locust outbreak?
Good afternoon, thank you. Yes, so we are currently experiencing full swing of locust outbreaks in parts of the Northern Cape, Eastern Cape and Western Cape provinces. At the end of last year and the beginning of this year, more than 23 million hectares of land were affected or infiltrated by locusts, according to our information, and this was the worst outbreak in 25 years. As much as 90% of this 23 million hectares of infiltrated land was agricultural land, and that was felt. So unless urgent action is not taken, we might see a bigger outbreak. But this is also according to the South African Weather Service that we might experience above normal rainfall. So that will just contribute to this massive outbreak or emanating outbreak that we will foresee.
You say last year it was the worst locust outbreak in 25 years, with more than 23 million hectares of land affected by locust outbreaks. Just paint a picture for our viewers. I mean, how big is that?
Well, when we reached the peak of the locust outbreaks, that was around March this year, there was one swarm that has been reported between Aberdeen and Willowmore in the Eastern Cape that was about 70 kilometers long. So we got patches or received patches or information of patches that was about 10,000 hectares in diameter, 8,000 hectares in diameter. We also had a threat that locusts were flying into the Sundays River Valley in the Eastern Cape, and that's about a 3 billion rand export industry, employing more than 40,000 permanent and seasonal workers. So that was just the extent. So it was concerning that these swarms would fly into irrigation areas that will have an effect on crops. But luckily, aerial support was mobilized to control.
Yeah, you say outbreaks are already in full swing in the Northern Cape, Eastern Cape and the Western Cape, and with the rains that are expected to be above normal this summer, you're expecting devastating swarms in this current summer season. So what needs to be done to prevent the impact?
Well, the Department of Agriculture is mainly responsible to control pest outbreaks in terms of the Agricultural Pest Act. So they employ locust officers and then they start controlling. So what makes this a little bit difficult already in this coming season is that the department hasn't finalized some of the contracts for some of these locust officers. So they can't start controlling, even though that we see large-scale outbreaks already. And that's very early in the season. So, yeah, that's some of the critical risks that we foresee at this stage. But we just need to collaborate with the department, ensure that we can take hands, communicate and coordinate. And we as Organized Agriculture is more than willing to assist the department to ensure that there is a smooth operations, that it runs smoothly.
Yeah, so in addition to the issuing of these locust officers' contracts that you are highlighting, which have not yet been finalized, what else would you bring to the attention of Togo Didiza, the minister?
Yes, so Agri SA have secured a meeting with the department through the intervention of Minister Didiza and DG Ramasori. Some of the issues that we will be discussing, and this is critical issues that was experienced in the last locust season, was to ensure that the department finalized these contracts to locust officers. We need to ensure that when there's late payments, because that was an issue last year, to locust office, that's expediently handled. The coordination and a sufficient pesticide supply, because we also had a risk last year that pesticide supplies were running low. And yeah, just training of locust officers and ensure that we have an open communication line with National Department, who is, like I said, mainly responsible to control with farmers or locust officers, so that we can take hands on that. But just, yeah, to make sure that we have contingency planning in place, and when these outbreaks reach a point where it's massive, that we can mobilize aerial support timeously.
So if that doesn't happen, should we brace ourselves for greater losses, greater than last year?
Well, yes, there is a risk, but district Locust officers with the department, they are currently doing everything that they can to assist and to control where they can. But if this is not urgently addressed and we urgently start controlling with pre-season, when these locusts are still in their so-called hopper phase before they start flying, we might see big losses.
Yeah, you want to stop the eggs, the locust eggs from hatching, so you prevent even that from happening. So you mentioned pesticides. Finally, Andrea, what about equipment? I mean, you need some specialized equipment for spraying and stuff. Have you got support on that one?
Yes, so the department distributes equipment. So that, like I said, the department is mainly responsible to control. So they distribute equipment and pesticide to locust officers to make it to enable them to control. So yes, yeah, there is enough. We just need to ensure that there's coordination between the department and locust officers.
When are you meeting them? You said you've managed to secure the meeting through the services of the Minister, Togo Didiza. When is that meeting?
Next week. We're still waiting for exact time and date.
Okay, we'll probably get an update from you afterwards. Thank you very much for your time this afternoon. Andrea Campher from Agri SA. I mean, they are fearing a locust invasion that could be worse than last year. And of course, it will affect our crops. And if we don't get the crops, we don't get the food.